Aloha, I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I conduct work life video interviews with career professionals that become an all intuitive conversation. Aloha, and welcome to another episode of All Intuitive Conversation. I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I conduct these conversations all in the hopes of encouraging me, my guests, and you to live smart and ascend to new levels of work life success. And so today I have the pleasure of reconnecting with Sarah. So, Sarah and I had a conversation before where I was a guest on her podcast, but it was simply audio. So, this is the first time I'm actually getting to connect with her face to face. And so, let's bring her to the screen. Aloha, Sarah.
Hi, Felicia. It's so good to be here.
It is so good to connect with you.
Mhm.
Well, I thought, I just gotta chill. I thought because we had connected a while, months back for when I was a guest on your podcast. And then with us being moms and traveling and kind of living our life, we were kind of going back and forth and having the need to change our dates that we meet here. But I realize everything, as I always say, everything is divine time. So it's no accident, considering what we both do, that we would meet on the 8/8, the Lions Portal
Oh,
day.
wow.
Right. So I was like, if we
Yeah.
probably would have planned it intentionally
Oh my
now.
gosh, I love this. Yeah.
So I was like, of course we are connected today. So I was like, divine timing for sure.
Yes. I know I love divine timing. I always am like, yes, I honor you and just it always is. It's the moment it's supposed to be when it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Exactly. So we met because, like I said, we're in very similar fields of spirituality and all of that. So, as we explore that a little bit more, first tell me, where are you located?
Bend, Oregon
Bend,
is where I
Oregon.
live. Yeah.
Okay, I think you
So
may be the first person I ever connected with in Oregon. Are you from there?
no, I'm from England and I grew up in the Bahamas. And then
Ooh,
I went to school in the US, and then I traveled for a bunch of years. And then I lived in Hawaii, which I love how you always say aloha. I
yes.
lived there for 15 years, and then now I've been in Bend for 4.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I traveling is part of my passion and who I am, so
Well, clearly, so, with all the different places that you have traveled, was there a connection or like, for example, I've traveled different places because my dad was in the military. Was there a career kind of connected to all that travel, or were you just picking up and saying, "Hey, we're gonna go live in Hawaii, or we're gonna go live in Oregon"? Like, what was the basis of all your travels?
I don't know if we're frozen. Are we frozen? Are we back?
Uh-oh. Okay, we're back. Did you catch anything?
Okay.
Yes, there you go.
I did. I heard what you said, and then we kind of froze probably in some weird
The portal.
kind of, you know? Um, no, when I was young, my parents just decided they wanted to live abroad. It was kind of a thing you did in England. And my mom was a teacher, and my dad worked at the power plant, so they were able to move easily. And then they split up, and my mom decided she didn't want to leave, so we stayed in the Bahamas and grew up there. And then I went away to school. I had an opportunity, and so that was why I went and came to the U.S. in Florida to go to school, and I stayed for university. The rest of the traveling was inspired for myself. Both my parents traveled. My dad worked away a lot, like after he left the Bahamas, and then my mom had traveled before I was born. And I think they really just inspired me that there's a whole world out there, and we grow up kind of in a bubble somewhat when we're young. Some of us not so much, and yet I was just really inspired that there's a whole world that I wanted to see. My dad would go and bring back these things from different places, and they were always so unique and different to anything that I had seen.
Mhm.
And it really just I there was part of my heart just always said, "You've gotta go, you've gotta go." But the way nobody wanted to go with me. And
Mm.
then because people are like, "No, you're supposed to graduate college and get a job and have kids and do all the things." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to." And then I met this guy who wanted to. And so off we took. And that was really the beginning of my spiritual journey on a deeper level for sure. It was about 25 years ago. And I just have kept going and going since. So
Well, it's interesting. The first card that came out for you was the magician, and I giggled because when you said people grow up in this whole bubble, it's like he's in this like bubble around, but it's not limited to that bubble. And it literally says on here, magic is alive in your life. What you need to be a success will manifest. If you believe it, you can do it. So it definitely sounds like you had this whole magic in your life and perception. I'm like, no, I don't have to conform to the regular norms that I can go off and do all these different things. So the question is coming through is how do you define magic?
For me, I think it's that there's like a sensation inside and it's always been there in my heart. And it's the thing that has kept me curious about life is always asking why. Like I was that kid that always asked why. You ask me, tell me to do something, I want to know why.
Mhm.
And that curiosity for life, I feel is magical. And, I think it's connected to our inner child, it's connected to playfulness, it's connected to that, like, living in awe. Like,
Mm.
yes, life is hard and things happen and we have to navigate them. And at the same time, we always have a choice. We always have the choice. We always have the how we choose to look at things. Are we going to see the possibility and the goodness, or are we going to be the victim and look for all the ways that things go wrong? And to me, that's magic. It's having that sense inside you that there's something bigger and better and just like that we can connect to. It's like that deliciousness of life.
Yes. Well, the next card that came out here was this knight that's on the horse charging forward, embracing, like, yes, we're going to go this way, looking forward to the life. And it literally says on here, decisive, focused, driven, defensive, events that move with great speeds. And so it's like looking ahead of the life and what you want out of it and making it happen. Totally love that. So, with you in your life and what you do, tell me, what does Sarah's life look like a year from now?
Ooh. Ah, in a year from now,
Mhm.
I see that I have expanded my community of the people that I help, the people that I reach. I see it both on a personal and a professional level. And what I started talking was professionally. I
Mhm.
really lately I went through a portal, a magical portal.
Of course.
that, of course.
Portal Mary, yes.
That really showed me that what I desire to create is spaces where we can come together, where we remember the truth that we are not separate, that we are supported, that it's a now coming together that we really can create the life that we want to live. And it's like that idea of it takes a village, right? Like
Mhm.
that's not just for when you have kids, that's for our lives. And
Yeah.
it's building these villages, building these gatherings, these portals, these magical containers where we come together to remember the truth of who we are and to learn magical practices and be together. And so I see that that has come, like I've already started it, but
Mhm.
it's out there, it's living, it's breathing, it's doing what it wants to do in the world, this idea that's coming through me.
Yes. So you're definitely in that energy because I literally next card has a theme of transmutation, and I had
Mm,
placed it under the magician card very first, and it says on here, trigger statement. I don't know who I am. Right. There are sometimes people's like, who am I? Where am I going? I don't know what I'm going to be
Mhm.
doing a year from now. But the oil I was talking about was like DNA repairing. And the true statement is, I am. And it says, there is no efforting required for this shift. Be present and allow every aspect of your being to transform. And so it's like how you kind of caught yourself and saying, like, yeah, I started off with my business, but there's also this personal side of me as well. And it's kind of reminding me of, I had just actually did an edit of a show last night of a past guest, and it was talking about knowing who you are versus what you do. And a lot of time individuals are not able to make that distinction of who are you, and he started talking about this is just what I do versus I am. Who am
Mhm.
I? Spiritually. And so it's cool that you seem to have an understanding and knowing. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I teach that too, right? Like I part of what I love to talk about and share about, it's like it's life isn't about doing, it's about being.
Yes.
It's who am I being in every moment. And when I am in connection with the truth of who I am, I live from that place of being. Everything in my life is an extension of my being, not my doing.
Mm. So they came up as talking about leveling up. Again, it's like this whole energy, like this focus. I know where I'm going. I got my eye on there. I got my eye on the target. Um, so the next question is coming through with that. So tell me, what does Sarah just do for fun?
So much good stuff. I travel. I
Mhm.
love to take my kids camping, going to the lake. I love being on the water. I run. I practice yoga. I love being with friends. I love creating, like work wise. I love creating. And like I have my podcast, I have programs I'm creating. There's this real beautiful creative energy that I just love to be inside of. And I think when I'm outside and I'm running or I'm in yoga or I'm connecting with people, it is an extension of this creativeness. And what's so fascinating to me as I'm talking about it is when I was younger and inside of my conditioning and my trauma and all the different stories that I told myself about why I couldn't do certain things. Um, One of the things I used to say was, I'm not creative. And
Mm,
it came from the fact that in art class in school, like in grade school, I wasn't that great at drawing and painting. And so I based this whole part of my creativity on this small facet or segment of my life. And
mhm,
and I see that as what we do, right? We take this one little thing that happens to us and then we extend it into our entire life.
mhm.
And it's not true. I am so creative in so many things. And so I love bringing that through everything and really shining that into the world because it's such a contrast to how I grew up.
Well, it's the next card that came out here was the Ra, which is very much connected to the sun. But the word here was enlightening. And it's like you were talking about just shining and how you had an awareness of your life of, uh-huh, like I don't have to bring this trauma from my past and let it limit me to this point, to today. So the next question that's kind of coming through is, what was that enlightening moment that you decided I'm a modern intuitive?
um, oh gosh, it's been so many moments
Mhm,
that lined up. And if there was sort of one defining moment, I think it's more about the very beginning of the journey. I believed that you had to be born an intuitive.
mm,
Like the gifts were reserved for a select few important people, let's say. I don't know where I got this from. But this was what I thought, and I had an intuitive reading and I was blown away by how much this amazing woman knew about me, and she'd never met me. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. How does she do this?
Mhm.
And it was like, well, you have to be born with it, was the idea that I attached to that. And she was like, no, 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 we're all born with this. I've just learned how to develop it. I went to school, I trained, I did a lot of work. Like, I developed it in myself, and that started the spark. I was like, if
Mm.
she can do it, I can do it. And I just started. And I mean, that was, I've been on the spiritual journey, for 25 years, but that was probably about the 15, 16 years ago, maybe somewhere in there, that moment happened.
Mhm.
Prior to that, it was more yoga and learning spiritual texts and remembering the truth of me. But this idea that I had the capacity to do that also, that was the moment that opened up in me. And now I feel passionate about helping other people understand that.
Love that because the next card that came out was this theme of processing. And it's like how you said, this is not a sudden one time thing only, but like you said, you were doing the work that was opening you more and more ready to have that download. So it's this process. And a true statement says, I have the solution. Slowing down and listening to your inner voice will provide you with direction and purpose. So I've heard people say that like many times, listening to the inner voice. And like I said, going back to knowing who you are, how would you guide someone into understanding and being able to know that inner voice versus something else? Like how can they tap into that and know, like, yes, this is something I want more of and can listen to.
Yeah, no, I love this. So for me, what I found most powerful is it's learning to trust those moments when you get some kind of hit. So like in the beginning, this is an example that happened to me. I couldn't find my keys, you know, happens to everybody. Where are my keys? Ah, and I'm late, of course.
Yes.
And I walked past the chair, and there was a green banker's envelope sitting on the chair that my husband at the time was waiting to go to the bank. And I got a knowing that said, oh, look in the banker's bag. And then the other voice is like, that's ridiculous. It's not never going to be in there. Go look upstairs. So off I go upstairs. I spend like 5 minutes. The banker bag is still sitting there. And finally, like after it's told me like 3 or 4 times to look in there, I
Yep.
look in there. And of course the keys are in there. I don't know how they got in there, but they're in there. And it's learning that when you get that little snippet of information, it just kind of drops in or comes from nowhere, or you feel it, or however it speaks to you. there
Mhm.
there is that moment though, and you have a choice in that moment to negate it and just continue on doing what you normally do, running around the house frantically looking for the keys, or you honor that it could be true,
Mm.
even though it doesn't seem like it could be. It seems irrational. Follow those moments. Just give it a moment to say, well, let me check. And then what happens is you check and it's there and it validates. And it's about validating that voice. We've become so trained and conditioned to not trust that voice, to
Mhm.
trust the voices outside ourselves. No, not what you say, it's what I say, or the advertising, whatever, however it comes in, it's constantly telling us don't trust that knowing that we have.
Right.
And the way that we build it is by trusting it, just the little tiny ones, so that then we build the capacity that when there is a bigger moment, that we have now built a relationship with that voice, that we then know that we can trust it in these bigger moments.
Mm. That's beautiful. Um, so the next card came here is once again this bubble. Thing, but just the whole optimism. But what also came out was the shine theory and water. And so I'm going to start with this. Have you ever heard the phrase about shine theory? What that
Mm,
means?
not by those words.
Yes. So shine theory is this concept that came about that when you see another woman doing well. It's versus hating on her. It's, girl, yeah, you did that. It's like the shine theory. Like, you
I love
shine, I shine,
it.
right?
Yeah.
It's like it's not taking anything away from that. And it's like water here, but the word that's coming through is thirsty, which is another kind of slang for like desperate, like just really, really eager. And so the final thing that's kind of coming through in the question of posing this is that, like I started with, that you and I are very similar in this sense of the work that we do. We both have a podcast. We're both, kind of intuitives. I noticed that we're both wearing solid black. Today. And so it was just like, okay, I guess this is how we were connecting. And what I wanted to in say encouraging you was that I appreciate that you came on the show, and that there was no sense of, well, no, like we're competing, or there's
Mhm.
some sense of, I can't do that because that's going to keep, from my show from shining, or a particular client or anything like that, which connects back to the whole enlightening concept of just as you shine, I shine, and just knowing that, keep doing the work that you're doing, how you're serving, and how they're encouraging that it could be different. Like I said, yours was strictly audio, mine was like video, but we're both out there reaching and connecting with individuals. So I'm going to pause there because they're saying, let me let you reflect on what I just said. I'm going to stop.
Well, I love learning this new way of relating to what I believe of with shine theory. Like I do believe that. I was just having a conversation with my son this morning about
Mm,
looking for the good in others, and that it's, if we want to look for the negative or want to put people down, that's definitely a path. Like that's
mhm.
available, and there are people doing it. I said, but we're here for something greater. We're here to raise each other up, to to complement each other, to love each other, to support each other. And I really do believe that. It doesn't matter if we're doing the exact same thing, if we're had the exact same platform, talking to the same people. I
Yeah.
believe that, and I learned this probably in business school or something, but like competition, it's like why Burger King and McDonald's are on opposite corners. It's why there's 2 gas stations next to each other. It's like because they know that more is better. That, like, the more people that are coming together and talking about the things that need to be talked about, and they're inspiring others and bringing hope to people's lives, like, yeah, let's all get together and do it. Like, raise each other up. I fully believe and support that this is what we're meant to do, that
Yeah.
there's enough of division and tearing each other down. And yeah, I thank you for sharing a new term with me.
You're so welcome. And so, I have next was called to the chakra deck, and of course, we got the solar plexus,
Mm.
and this is what the final words is kind of coming through. Talks about self worth and self esteem, which goes back to the shine theory, having the confidence in knowing that no one can take away from you, that we both can shine. It says, I honor myself by doing things that please me, not only those that please others. I am empowered as I release the need to live up to other people's unrealistic expectations of me. When I respect and improve of myself, others will naturally do the same. I teach others how to treat and respect me by how I treat and respect myself. I know I'm worthy of love and respect. The boundaries I create with others acknowledge my self worth.
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree. And it's been my journey. I didn't start there. Like, I had to learn a lot of those things. I did not learn them growing up. I had very low self esteem, and
Mm,
I had no boundaries, and I was very disempowered in so many of my relationships. And that magic, that part in my heart, the part that pulled me forward to travel,
Mhm.
to explore, yeah, that part, it was like even though the world around me was showing me sort of the dysfunction, right, that I was living inside of, I knew there was a different way. I just
Mhm.
knew there had to be. I don't know how I knew, but I just did, and I kept following that thread, and I learned. I learned how to be all of those things, how to have that level of accessibility to myself in my life by putting myself first.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, continue to be a great modern example for those. So, for those that say, yes, I want to know more about Sarah and how she connects and coaches with individuals, where can they reach you?
SarahNoble.com. It's just my name. I'm the modern day intuitive on social media and around. And yeah, I'm really passionate about intuition. So, as a portal, right, to knowing and trusting ourselves. So, I have a free gift that's called Ignite Your Intuition, which does teach how to just get in touch with your gifts and how to empower yourself to
Yes.
move forward. So, I'd love to offer that too.
Yes.
And,
Move forward. Move forward.
yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I'm creating these spaces. I'm gathering community. It's what I believe is going to help us walk through and navigate the uncertainty that we're facing right now. We're
Mm,
going to do it together.
indeed. So, no, Sarah, as you're out there, oh, sending love and light to you and the whole continue to shine and knowing that as you shine, I shine. Thank you for
Mhm.
those that have joined us. If you're interested in being a guest on All Intuitive Conversation, send me a message on LinkedIn, and or you can also learn more about the show at allintuitiveconversation.com. And until we meet again, this has been an All Intuitive Conversation.